Well, hey everybody, Jim Hall, you ought to know. Welcome to another show. We're here in Irwindale, California. Fiesta Parade Floats is where we're at, and I've got Caden with me, my grandson, celebrating year number 1, and he's all set with all the roses. Take a look at all this color. And we're going to meet with Tim Estes, the owner for Fiesta Parade Floats. We're going to talk about the 12 floats being entered in this year's Tournament of Roses Parade, and we're going to talk about Caden's new year coming into 2009. And with every show, we hope you'll join us on our website, www.odysseytv.org, around the world, and we hope you'll stay with us for a great show. We're at Fiesta Parade Floats. He's eating the roses, everybody. It's the Tournament of Roses Parade coming up, and a special show from Fiesta Parade Floats, simply because, don't eat it, Caden, save some for Grandpa. You ought to know. Stay with us, great show coming up. Welcome back, everybody. Jim Hall, you ought to know, and it is a busy time of year for this guy right here. Tim Estes. Tim, nice to see you again. Happy New Year to you.
Hey, good to see you again.
And which year are we on here? It's a lot of them, but they all add up. But we've got a lot of history when it comes to Fiesta Parade Floats. For the first time, you are actually east of the 605 freeway in this location where all this is coming together.
Yeah, the Turner Rose Association bought a new facility in the city of Irwindale, right by Irwindale Avenue and the 210 freeway. And we moved here earlier in the year. It took us about 3 months to move, but we're back up to speed doing 12 floats again, and so we're looking forward to another great parade.
Well, let's talk about some of those 12 floats real quick. It starts off with you've had some great you sweepstakes, President's Trophy, and so on and so on. You're looking for that again, but mention some of those people that you're doing floats for here in this location.
Well, again, we're doing a number of good floats. We got Rainbird Sprinkler Manufacturing Company, Kaiser Permanente, National Association Realtors, a first-year client in the Rose Parade. Another first-year client that's really going all out is Natural Balance Pet Foods, which is Dick Van Patten's Natural Balance Pet Foods, as well as FTD, again, doing another great float for them, and the state of New Mexico, and Cerritos, and Anchorage Convention Visitors Bureau, and City of Torrance and Doherty. So we got a whole multitude of floats here.
Well, you mentioned you're doing 12 this year in this location. Now, in past years, you had that split location where you were at, and you actually used part of the property from the hospital there, and you're not having to do that anymore.
Correct. We're all under one roof, as they say now, so it's certainly a little bit easier logistically that way. And being a new facility, we're just trying to work out some of the bugs. But again, it's a very nice facility. The Turner Roses is, our tenant, as with all the float builders. And since we were going to have to move out of the Doherty site because the tent site was going to be developed by the City of Hospital, and that was the first domino to drop to make this all occur.
Now, you talked about float builders. There's numerous individuals out there that are called independent builders, or cities are doing their own, or groups, organizations. But you've been doing them now. Let's talk about the history of Fiesta Parade Floats again. Remind everybody, how long have you been doing this?
This will be our 21st year as Fiesta Parade Floats in the parade. In fact, I've been the longest running owner of all the current owners right now, so I guess that makes me the senior guy at age 53. But we've been the top prize winning rate company for the last 18 years overall. We've won sweepstakes the last 15 years in a row, which is a tournament record. And we got a great staff here at Fiesta Parade Floats, and the great talent of Jim Hine, who's Vice President Floral Director, and my business partner here at Fiesta, as well as Raul Rodriguez. So we got a great team here.
Well, you do have that team, and of course, people will recognize Raul on one of the floats. Where's he riding this year? Do we know?
Rawls going to be riding on the China Airlines float that he designed, and because it just worked out really well for himself and his macaw to ride on his shoulder, Sebastian. So it'll be a good parade.
And here we are, just a couple days out from the new year. Floats are coming together. The floral arrangements are all happening, and I guess Jim Hines about now is just kind of all over the place.
Well, fortunately, Jim's got an awful lot of people under him, but he's still the mastermind on getting all these floats florally done, and he's a very magical person when it comes to flowers.
Well, let's talk about your move now. It took almost 3 months, you mentioned, to get over here. How much time did that take out of your float time? Because you guys literally start, when you get everything back here after the Tournament of Roses parade and that big event, you're right into it for next year, aren't you?
Yeah, it was certainly a slight hiccup this year, and we had to kind of burn the oil a little bit longer during October, November, more than so I wanted. But we picked up the slack pretty quickly, and we finished construction on Christmas Eve, so we just made it.
Well, that's a good thing. Construction done. Everything's working. Everything gets tested. Talk about that, because they actually come out and actually do a lot of the safety checks as well, don't they?
Well, all the floats are test driven at least 2 times. The second time is what we call the T2, is when the float is basically in a ready to decorate state. Basically all the weight's there except for the flowers, and all the animation systems work. So, and we have a couple floats that are a little bit special this year. So we finished up our last test drive on December 13th, and we're sitting pretty good right now.
All right, right behind us here, talk about this particular float. What are we seeing back over this direction?
Well, this float that behind us is sponsored by the City of Cerritos, entitled Camelot, A Knight's Tale. And City of Cerritos has their Performing Arts Center, and one thing that they do in this Performing Arts Center is certainly put on a lot of plays and skits and concerts throughout the year. It's a fabulous facility, and one of the plays they've done is Camelot. So we try to reminisce what the Broadway play Camelot is.
All right, now right across from it, when we go adjacent to it here, or just east of it in this big giant building where we're located, what do we have here?
Well, that's the FTD float, and what the FTD float is, basically it's a movie set scene, and the float's entitled The Making of an Epic. So what we have really here, the float is the props for a movie scene, but at the very front of the float is we have our working camera boom with our camera operator up on the float, and at the front will be the director barking out the orders, and also on the sides of the float, walking on the street, will actually be other workers, theatrical workers, holding carried spotlights and the clapboard. So the whole thing is trying to show the making of a movie.
All right, and then just adjacent to us right here, here is the Rainbird. Talk about that, because you always have some unique things with Rainbird.
Well, I'll tell you, Rainbird is just fabulous to work with, and again, they've given us a lot of latitude to create a very special float. And this year's float is somewhat reminiscent of a photo safari. You're set in Africa, and so we have our Jeep that's at the front of the float with Jack Hanna and Walter Crawford again riding in the Jeep, and Walter's got a peregrine falcon that can literally go over 200 miles an hour, and it's swooping down from up in the sky. But on our float we have all the different animals we created, with giraffes and elephants and zebras and gazelles, and they're all animated, and our cheetah, and we even have water mist shooting out of the elephant's trunk. Let alone we also have 5 working waterfalls and 24 high pressure misting nozzles. So it's going to be a fabulously decorated float.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing those go down. Now, we're always talking about the picks, who's going to win what and what have you, but I'm looking for the sweepstakes again this year. And we're going to talk more about that and more about Fiesta Parade floats and their move to this new location and what it's like here when we come back. Why are we here? Simply because, like with every year, you ought to know. Stay with us, everybody. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Jim Hall, you ought to know, at Fiesta Parade Floats, and Tim Estes, the owner of Fiesta, is with me. And Tim, we're in the city of Irwindale.
Yeah, correct. Irwindale, California, right by the 210-605 freeway.
Well, I guess everybody uses that landmark. The Miller Brewing Company is there. Santa Fe Dam Recreation Area. People may know the Renaissance Fair is held there. And now Fiesta Parade Floats has a new location or a home here.
Correct. We moved into the largest facility that's owned by the Turner Rose Association, and it's a great large facility right by Miller Brewery, actually, but we hope to put Fiesta parade floats on the map with all the rest of the icons of Irwindale.
Well, and there was certainly, I saw right off of the 210 freeway, there were Caltrans signs directing me for parade viewing, and you have float viewing signs, or even on the green Caltrans type signs directing people how to get here. So people are being directed, and people can come see the floats as they're under construction. And of course, talk about some of the groups that volunteer here to help get all these done.
Well, it's really great. A number of our floats are what we call self-decorated, such as the City of Torrance and City of Cerritos, and the National Association of Realtors are decorating their own floats. But other floats don't have the ability to do that. Or they really don't have the desire to do that because it's just, like FTD, they're located in Chicago, and they really kind of hard for that. So we hire like groups like the Girl Scouts or the Aurora High School Band, where they'll come in and volunteer to their organization to work as a project, and then Fiesta Parade Floats makes a donation to the Girl Scouts or the high school band for fundraising.
Well, that's a prosperous way for a lot of these groups to look forward to each year. I know there's groups that look forward to doing specifically this event, and then Fiesta, again, contributes back to them.
Oh, absolutely. And what's fantastic is just seeing all the people come out here and really have fun and be creative. And it gets sometimes a little cold, sometimes it gets a little miserable with the glue in their hair and all. But, they're seeing something coming together and doing something to create something that makes everybody happy.
Now, this facility is how large? We didn't throw that in yet.
Well, overall, this facility is 80,000 square feet. Fiesta Parade Float has approximately 65,000 square feet, and there's about another 12,000 square feet that goes to Charisma floats, and then there's some area that's set aside for the Turner Roses themselves.
All right, now behind us here we've got the New Mexico Tourism Department. This is a float depicting the Roadrunners on there. What is that float talking about, or what are we seeing there? Wile E. Coyote strapped to a rocket?
Well, what's really great is with the parade theme of Hats Off to Entertainment, what's entertaining besides movies are also cartoons. And the Roadrunner is just one of the best well-known cartoon characters out there, with Wile E. Coyote always going after him. But the Roadrunner is also the state bird from the state of New Mexico. So in New Mexico, the tie-in with the Roadrunner and the state bird, so we have our Roadrunner that's kind of like running down the highway, and following him is Wile E. Coyote on the Acme rocket that's going to be moving up and down, pitching side to side, and smoke coming off, and great soundtrack. And Warner Brothers has been great to work with to allow us to have this come about, and it's going to be a fun float.
Well, it certainly is. I mean, even with the state bird leading the way there, so to speak. But you had fun doing this. Was this something they came up with conceptually, or how does that all work?
Well, there was a thought of by Mike Cerletti, the Secretary of Tourism in New Mexico, thinking about doing something with the Roadrunner, and working closely with Raul Rodriguez, worked on the idea of using the Roadrunner Wile E. Coyote connection because it ties in well to Hats Off to Entertainment. And seeing it all come together, and again, working with Warner Brothers, we have a great fun float that's going to be enjoyed by the crowds.
All right, this one right next to us now, this is going to be a little bit different because you're actually going to have some Olympians that have competed that are going to be aboard this. But talk about the uniqueness of this float, and where is it from?
Well, this is for the city of Mission Viejo, and it's saluting their 20th anniversary as a city. And they got a lot of people that are going to be on the float that are involved with the recreation, including some past Olympians like Greg Louganis and Brian Goodell and Julie Fardy. But one thing that's neat about Mission Viejo is Lake Mission Viejo, and we want to do something different where we're going to we have a pool of water up there with over 2,500 gallons of water. That equates to about 11 tons. That's 22,000 pounds of just water alone on the float, and there'll be people diving into this pool of water.
Now, what were the safety concerns, or what went into the thought when this was being conceptualized on paper before it ever came to fruition?
Well, certainly I want to make sure there was enough adequate diving area underwater, so when the divers, they're going to have 3 divers up on the float throughout the whole parade diving, that they have enough room area to dive into, and that it's very clearly marked and a safe and easy way to get in and out after they dive. But also at the same time I had to worry about is water stays level, and when the float goes down the hill after the turn onto Colorado, it goes down on an 8-degree slope, and it would displace approximately 185,000 cubic inches of water. So had to do a little figuring out on what to do on that.
All right, I got to ask you some of this while we move on just a little bit. When you talk about Greg Louganis and these type of people, they're not going to be diving the whole way, are they?
No, well, the 3 divers are Greg himself is not diving, but they got 3 youngsters from their Natadors, which is their swim team down in Mission Viejo, which puts out a lot of Olympians, and those 3 kids, two male and 1 female, will be diving in the pool. And by the way, the water will be heated, so I'm trying to be polite. So.
All right, it's going to be good stuff. Tim, I got to ask you real quick, when you talk about this parade, it's this year, hats off to entertainment. Do you already have a preview up there from next year when the new president comes in, what that theme's going to be?
We've been given a little tickler of what it's going to be, and we've already got some design concepts underway, and it'll be made official next month by the official announcement by the president. Will be Gary DeSano on it, but it's going to be a really good theme.
All right, we're going to watch for that as well. And we've got more. We're going to get a great overview when we come back. We're going to stay with Tim Estes. Fiesta Parade Floats is where we are in Irwindale. And why are we here? Like with every year, simply because to bring in the new year, you ought to know. Stay with us, everybody. There's more yet to come. Welcome back, everybody. Jim Hall, you ought to know. And we are upstairs on the balcony, as it were, overlooking Fiesta Parade Floats. With me, Caden, my grandson, very first, and he's looking at Tim Estes here from Fiesta Parade Floats. Yeah, having a good time, huh? And Tim, I had to bring him along for part of the shot here as we get started. We're overlooking the brand new building here, brand new building, but brand new location for Fiesta Parade Floats. And talk about this again, this expanse. You're doing 12 floats in here this year?
Correct, doing 12 floats, and pretty much got everything figured out on where the floats are and all the decoration materials. So it's been a long year, and but it's working quite well right now.
When you set this up initially, when you moved over here to this location, you talked about the time that it took to move the steel, the massive expanse of steel, the decoration material that you had stored up for how many years?
We've accumulated a lot of equipment and supplies over the years, and it took us about 3 months to move everything, which was a lot longer than I originally anticipated, but we finally got moved in, and it did reach a point where we just had to stop putting things away and get back to construction. And so I'm actually looking forward to next year where we can kind of put things away better.
When you get down to it, when the parade is over and things develop to where you bring the floats back here January 1st, they make the trek back here. They'll actually be on display for a couple days over at in Sierra Madre at the park, and then they come back here. What's that process like? What's the employees? How many employees are here right now?
Well, my year-round staff is here, which is approximately 30 people, and then my staff is augmented by all the supervisors and florists, other decoration week workers that I need for scaffolding in the glue room. So that expands to an additional about 65, 68 people just on my so-called staff. Then you have all the decorators in here, which is totaling around about 900, 950 people that are here every day, all day long. So there's quite a few people here. But once we bring the floats back, and this year we're bringing them back on Saturday night, January 3rd from the post-parade viewing area, then we kind of get a couple days of rest.
And then what's that process like? When do you start in? When do you start tearing them down and redoing whatever you're going to do and making the changes and doing what you got to do?
We pretty much start dismantling some of the parts of the floats right away after the parade. We're certainly trying to do some final cleanup, especially in the exterior of the building. But while that is occurring, we're also doing maintenance on our equipment, which is a yearly chore that we do. But at the same point in time, Jim and I and Raul are working on different concepts and ideas so I can start sales by middle of February and start construction hopefully by the end of March.
Now you're already talking to the clients at that point, and you're saying, here, we've got some ideas, you've got some ideas, let's look at them and see what we've got. Here's the theme of the parade. We already know where we're headed, and let's get going.
Absolutely, and everybody wants to come fast out of the chute because meaning getting a design selected, because the sooner they get a design selected, then the sooner they can start using the visual image to start doing PR and marketing and getting the process going.
Well, the process is going out here right now. That we're talking about post-parade, but we're pre-parade right at this point. Talk about that parade activity, which is actually a parade in itself. Once you go to move these, all the floats have to get moved and into place, ready for the New Year's Day celebration. Talk about that now.
Well, correct. Starting about noontime on December 31st, New Year's Eve, we actually start getting the floats outside lined up in a numerical order of these floats that we have. And then we take that long 19.5-mile convoy with California Highway Patrol escort, and it takes us about 8 hours to get from here to Pasadena. We'll probably leave at around 3:30. So I hope to anticipate to get into the formation at about 11 o'clock at night, maybe as late as midnight. Then at that point in time, we're checking over all the flowering on the floats, the animation systems, one more check, all the engines, and just getting ready for that final push for the 8 o'clock show. So
you must have a lot of people, though, that always know when these are going to be moved, and you get kind of your own little viewing as these things get ready to head for Pasadena, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. We got people who just want to know when we're coming by a certain location. The best I can say is we're leaving about 3:30. We're traveling about 3 miles an hour. We'll probably be in your area at around 4 or 5 or 5 or 6 or something like that. But there's thousands of people that line the street to watch us, have their own miniature parade go by them. So they feel a lot of fun.
Well, you talk about that staff you've got. I got to say special thanks to Beverly, who's worked with you for how long?
Beverly has worked at Fiesta for about 18 years, and actually almost half my crew has been with me for 18, 19 years, so we got a good crew here.
Well, it really says something about the organization, and it really says something about they really like what they do here in this location, working with Fiesta and making this happen.
Well, Jim and I try and create an environment where everybody has an element of creativity and applying their own ideas and thought processes on trying to make these unique items come to life.
Well, you certainly do, and you've mentioned it before. I mean, you held the record, and you still do. Sweepstakes trophies, how many years in a row?
15 years in a row we've won sweepstakes.
And we're looking for 16 to roll out, and I said pick one, but is it kind of like picking your own children, or one over the other?
Well, every single one of the floats that Fiesta does is a prize winner in my heart, and we just hope that we can be a proud winner for all of them, and it's just a great parade.
Well, Tim, thank you for talking with us and being with us again this year. We're going to be back year after year, and as long as Fiesta's here, we'll be here too, bringing it to you because it's just so exciting. I mean, the uniqueness of each and every entry, people would think, how do you do different things each year? But the theme changes, ideas change, people have the visual, people get excited about it, and this is what we've got. It's just fantastic. So congratulations again.
Thanks a lot, Jim. Have a happy new year.
Thank you so much. And we're going to be right back, everybody, to wrap it up. And you're going to get a chance to watch the parade in its entirety numerous times. Let's see, this would be what year?
This is the 121st.
121st. I knew I had it. Tournament of Roses Parade. And why are we here at Fiesta Parade Floats? Simply to say hello to Tim Estes again, wish you a happy new year, and because you ought to know. We'll be right back to wrap up this show. Well, hey, everybody, that's going to put the wraps on another show from Fiesta Parade Floats in Irwindale, California. I've got Caden here bringing in a brand new year, first year for him. 4.5 months old now, getting ready for the Tournament of Roses Parade. I want to say a special thanks to Tim Estes and Jim Hine at Fiesta Parade Floats. Yes, all these flowers. And we've got flowers surrounding the building here as they get ready to go on the floats, and the floats get ready for this year's parade. We're happy that everybody joined us, right, Caden? And we hope you'll keep joining us here on Odyssey Television, www.odysseytv.org, and watch us around the world. Tell your friends, and make sure you watch us on Charter Cable and Verizon Fios. For everybody from Odyssey Television, we want to say a special thank you, and we'll see you next year, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this show, simply because, ready, Caden? You ought to know. Happy New Year, everybody. We'll see you next time.